Well, I hope you're happy. I finally got round to The Room. I've been putting it off for such a long time. I heard about it way back when, but I was like, no, I can't put myself through this. But I wanted to for you guys. I wanted to chime in on what I thought about it. And against my better judgment, I've kind of enjoyed it. Its reputation of being so bad that it's actually good is, I think, thoroughly deserved. I totally get that now. I fully understand. And I do have to agree with it. I did have a blast, despite what I was anticipating. I thought it was going to be a harrowing experience, ruining my life. But no, I really did enjoy it. But before we get into how awfully good it is, or how amazingly awful it is, whichever way you look at it, I do want to say that I did try and find deeper meaning in it, because that's my natural default pose. And there are some good ideas. They're not executed well at all, but there are some good ideas. In the character of Johnny, who I get the impression is very close to Tommy Wiseau himself, there is this idea that all he wants is to share love, platonic and romantic, and just a general love for humanity. He wants to share that with the world, and that's a great place to be. That's a very positive outlook. All he wants is to love and be loved in return. It's the human condition, really. You know, the best people have so much love to give, and all they ask is that that's recognised and returned to them. Even, you know, at a lesser rate, as long as it's acknowledged and people try, they're happy, or we're happy. As an emotionally sensitive person, I fully appreciate that mindset. But this is an interesting counter to Lisa and possibly her mum, from what we find out. You know, their approach to the world is simply take what you want, give nothing back. It's a lot more piratey than human, I guess, although pirates are human. But you know what I'm saying, it's less a positive human trait and definitely more of a very selfish and uncaring, I would argue, mindset. Of course, she does get her comeuppance at the end, when Greg Sestero's Mark just goes, actually, nah, I'm alright, thanks. You've basically killed my best friend, but he's been a party to that, should I say. But let's not get into that. Like I say, there are a lot of problems with this film. Whilst it's got those two great ideas, I do find that there's a lot wrong with it. And whilst I enjoyed it, I can't sort of say it was amazing and the best thing I've ever seen. In some ways it was, but because of its awfulness. The flow is just not. There is no flow. Scenes just seem like little vignettes, almost. It's like a person comes into house, like a particular example, going back to Lisa and her mum, they come in, talk for a bit, and then it's like, oh, I've got to go. What, you literally had like 2 minutes to spare for me? You're my own mother? And things like that. And I feel that Johnny, or Tommy, likes to say oh hi to basically everyone and everything. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a film with him where he just walks up to a tree and he's like, oh hi tree. And that's my terrible Tommy Wiseau impression. I'm not going to do many other people have done it in their critiques of The Room. I'm not stooping to that. But I kind of do see why people gravitate towards Tommy Wiseau. Assuming he is like Johnny in this film, and basically he's not acting, he's just reading lines and being himself, I can see why people are fascinated and drawn to him. He has a certain charisma, a certain childlike charm, almost, that you just want to see what's going on in his mind. And maybe The Room is that little insight that we want, you know, heavily dramatised with different, I say dramatised, but you know what I mean, fictionalised maybe would be better, you know, with all these different elements stewed into the pot. But it's just one of those films that I fully appreciate now. I fully appreciate the need to see it. But going back to the flaws, the music is sometimes a little overdramatic, sometimes a little underwhelming. It rarely strikes the exact mark it's going for, which is kind of a bad thing. As a musician and someone who would love to compose for film, I watch it going, no, that doesn't match very well. I get the feeling maybe the music was just composed vaguely with an idea of the film. I don't think it was posed per scene as the bigger productions tend to do. I think it was maybe just done very quickly, get something out that'll fit most of it. And it probably shows, if I'm being completely honest. But there are a lot of original songs in here, and I Will, which is the first one played, I think is forever ruined for me. Not that I'm ever likely to hear it anywhere else, but I just can't disassociate it with that very awkward sex scene, which, by the way, 3 within the first 30 minutes, I was starting to wonder, is this actually a porn? Like a softcore porno? Because that's quite a lot. Luckily, it does trail off after that. You know, we do get a brief thing with Michelle and Mike. Very imaginative naming of that couple. But, you know, it doesn't go quite as far, and we get a few little bits later on, but at least it leaves it alone properly. But one of the greatest things about The Room, you know, aside from how much the cast is doing their best with what they've got, I found Juliette Danielle and Greg Sestero, of course, Tommy's great friend, to be easy to watch at least, and all the, you know, other characters, they were interesting. Denny was a little weird. Denny was very strange. Denny just seemed to be this out-of-place little lad who just existed there in shots. And kind of a bit creepy at the start. And it's like, hey, can I come upstairs with you guys? And they have a pillow fight, and it's like, okay, go now. When we later learn that they basically see him as a son, it's a little creepy. But again, I think it's just how it wasn't written by professional writers, if you will. You know, in the same way that, you know, we consider film scripts written by professional writers to be. But one of the greatest things that this film's ever given us is, of course, the meme-worthy content. We've all seen, well, this bit.
I did not hit her. It's not true. It's bullshit. I did not hit her. I did not. Oh, hi, Mark.
And, of course, this bit.
You are tearing me apart, Lisa!
Both of which were considered, by the way, for puns for the title, but I opted for the former, not the latter. And that's really, I think, how it's really got a big resurgence in recent years. And I just think that, like I said before, this is one of those films to definitely experience for yourself. Just going off other people's recommendations, you're probably going to do what I did and build it up to this awful thing that you're going to have to endure and slog through. But while I'm telling you not to take my word for it, please take my word for it that you will enjoy the ride. This is definitely something worth seeing. Probably with friends would make it better. I watched it alone because that's how I like to kind of analyse and review things, for the most part. So I can actually focus my thoughts a lot easier. But I definitely say give it a go. You won't be disappointed, and you'll be able to tick that off on your bucket list. Now, I do hope you'll join me next week as we tackle something a lot more thoughtful and, weird as it sounds, personal to a lot of people. It did come across my radar this week, but I wasn't putting The Room off again. I could not do that to you or myself. So that'll be up here next week. Although if you do want to watch it a week early, you now can on Patreon. Yes, I did say a few weeks ago I would do this, and I finally found a way of doing it. I've got it there. So by the time of me recording this, I haven't fully confirmed what that sort of, I guess you could call it, soft paywall figure would be to get access to next week's video a week early. But it will be up there by the time you're watching this with that value. So if you do want to have a look and maybe chip in a bit and get something back for it, please do. It's all appreciated. I will start running a ticker, you know, once I've got a few names in the hat, as it were, and I do hope you'll definitely consider it. Also, in the video where I announced those plans, I did mention I was accepting 2 cryptocurrencies, which are Gridcoin and Bitcoin, which I probably need to put the addresses on Patreon as well now I think about it. But I'm now adding Dogecoin, and it is said that way because that's how Strong Dad says it. But I'm now adding that to the list, so if you want to give me much tip, very respect, never doing that again, please do so. All the addresses are down below, and hopefully by now on Patreon. So I do hope you'll join me next time, but until then, as always, take care.